Welcome to the Healthier Crock Pot cooking class. Thank you all for coming to Dawn's TV and Appliance. I thought it would be interesting to do a class on crock pot cooking or slow cookery. That's kind of the new name for an old way of cooking. And healthier means we're not doing anything with cream and mushroom soup or any of those old ways of the onion soup mix that might have. Those two things have a lot of sodium in them, so we're cutting that. You each have a little booklet I made for you, and it's got some tips at the beginning, and then 10 recipes that we'll go over step by step. And then I've made 3 of them ahead of time. We're going to demo the apple bread pudding together, and then we'll taste them all at the end. So thank you all for coming today, and let's get started. Because too much is going to make it soupy, or it'll wash away some of the flavor and that kind of thing. But like what the last sentence, if you create or adapt a recipe for the slow cooker, if you have one that is usually used for your oven, you want to move it to your slow cooker, decrease that amount of liquid by half, and it should work fine. Now, if you're changing the times too, that's going to affect it. If you're going to, change it from high to low, you're going to need a little bit more liquid because it'll be in there longer. Does that make sense? Yeah.
My wife and I actually argue about how much to put in when we're doing roast in the crock pot. I always want to put a little bit more, which is if you put the veggies in, they seem to dry out if they're sitting on the top. Should you put the vegetables under the roast, or what's?
Or on the bottom? Yeah. No. When I do my roast, I still put it on top. How much liquid are you putting in there?
I don't know, 3/4 of a cup of water or something like that.
Well, that should be, you win. That's not too much, yeah.
And of course, she's not here.
Yeah, we can record it, John.
Lisa, you were wrong.
No, don't say that. No, I'm sure both ways are lovely,
yes.
But 3/4 of a cup is not. I mean, I use in a roast, everybody has that traditional cream and mushroom onion soup mix roast recipe, and I usually fill my soup can up with something liquidy, to pour over the vegetables. I don't add my vegetables till closer to the end. Okay.
And I've done this pork roast. Makes a lot.
Beef, it does. Okay, the cut of meat you use is very important. And I'm sure,
I'm sorry.
No. I was gonna say I don't think linearly either. So following the list is very hard for me. But it's all in here if we jump around. The cut of meat you use. This is your chance. It's almost like the cheaper cut of meat is better every time. Don't waste your money on a fillet or really lean. Like the boneless, skinless chicken breast. They're going to be drier in here. You need to cook with chicken with the bones if that doesn't gross you out completely, and then pull them off at the end and put the meat back in. And this is your time to use like the chuck roast or pork roast. They just, because there's a little bit more fat, they cook more flavorfully. And I love pork is leaner, believe it or not, than most cuts of red meat anyway. So depending on which one you use. I trimmed these are 2 pork roasts I did, and I trimmed them. I spent a lot of time trimming the fat off of them last night, and there's still some on there. If that doesn't gross you out, too. Some people don't want to mess with raw meat like that. But yeah, the cut of meat you use, they eat all of these recipes call for chicken thighs versus breast, because with the bone, some with the skin, some with not. But you just, a piece of chicken with bone in it has much more flavor. Y'all know that, or do you know that? A boneless, skinless chicken breast isn't really not how if you're a really good cook, you don't ever cook with those. You cook with it bone in, or you bone it yourself right before you do it. But most people don't have time to do all that. So just beware, if you use a boneless, skinless chicken breast, one of the things I put in here, you might brine it overnight, or put it in some apple juice, or some sort of orange juice. I have a beer braised beef recipe in here. You can use non-alcoholic beer, of course. Just something to give it some extra liquid, or a leaner cut of beef if you really do the whole. If you were to use a fillet or tenderloin, please don't put your tenderloin in your crock pot. Please don't waste it in that. But you're going to need to brine it or do something with it, or it will get dry. So, any other questions? Oh, yeah.
Is it best to trim the fat from a pork or a beef roast before you put it in there, or after?
Well, you're not going to get all of it off, so trim it as best you can. You don't want to cut into the meat so there's nothing on there, but it's just too much for me mentally to see all that fat going in, knowing it's going to, so I go ahead and trim it down a little bit. But then, like when we take this out here in a little while, we're going to need to if I were home, I'd spend a lot of time straining the top of the juice, you know, to get the fat because it rises to the top. And y'all know the trick too, if you have time, you know, to refrigerate it, yeah. And then the fat all be there, and you just pull it off the top. You know, some people know that, some people don't. Okay.